Hi guys, let's explore more questions about Qigong. I'm actually very surprised you guys are leaving so much questions. So if you got more questions, leave it in a comment below or email me. It's actually really good to see you guys practicing. That's good. All right, so the first question is how do I use Qigong to work with negative emotions? It's a very good question. Usually that happens during sitting. If you're doing Tai Chi or any moving Qigong set, usually it's like a warm-up and you're moving around and relaxing your mind and body. It feels really good. It's like a massage for your mind, especially if you just had a hard day at work or something, right? So that's very good. And then after that, if you watch episode 1, we talk about how that progresses into standing and sitting. Usually when you're standing, you get a lot of power. You might get some frustration because it's hard for most people to stand for a long time. But once you get used to it, it actually feels pretty good. Your nervous system gets stronger and you get much more energy boost, right? And for people that just started post-training, I really don't recommend you do it after 10 p.m. because you're going to be so jacked up afterwards, you're going to have a really hard time sleeping. That's why sleeping Qigong is important. Maybe in a future episode we talked about that. But for those that start sitting after the standing phase, that's when the negative emotions, suppressed memory and trauma and all that stuff start to surface, right? When you first start sitting, your mind is yapping. You can't stop. Your monkey minds are just going a million miles an hour. So there's many ways that we learn to calm that down. One of the ways is countering thoughts with thoughts. That's a very common technique in most meditation tradition. That is, you have 10,000, 10 million, let's use 10,000. You have 10,000 thoughts going your way. It's distracting you, it's overwhelming you. There's too much thoughts in your head. So to stop that, use one to beat the many, they say. So you use an anchor. And there's a common technique in psychology as well. You think about one thing and one thing only. Just by thinking about one thing, the 10,000 thing disappears. So now you calm your mind. So in Buddhism, they may count beats or they may chant a mantra, right? So you're using some kind of psychological trick to concentrate on one thing and focus really hard on one thing and everything else kind of fade away. In time, the volume in your mind gets cranked down and you experience stillness or no thought or a very calm mind. So you stop overthinking. So that's the effective technique. So that's based on your thinking. But another way you can do this, in Taoism, they use this a lot, is instead of trying to change your mind by using a mental trick, you would change your mind or quiet your mind by changing the physical energy. So when you're thinking and overthinking, all your energy is in your head. That's what overthinking is. Everything's pushed up, all your chi's up there. If you reverse it, if everything goes down into your belly, naturally it's not in your head. If you're not up in your head and in your belly, naturally you'll stop thinking. Or overthinking, right? So just by concentrating on the body, a straight spine and relax, a straight spine and relax, a straight spine and relax. When you do that over and over, when your body really relaxes and all the blood starts to drop, usually within about 10 minutes, the belly will start feeling warm. The blood and the energy goes there. When that happens, you'll naturally stop thinking right away because your stuff's not up here doing all this thinking. Your stuff's down here. So by changing the stuff or the chi or the energy, then naturally you change the mind state. So you can change the mind state by changing your energy state or by what we just talked about, or you can change the mind state by using a mental trick, which is kind of like the anchoring method you find in basic Buddhist meditation and also psychology, right? So they both work. Which one works better depends on your ability to make which one work, which again depends on your past trauma and also depends on, more importantly, your personality type. Some people like to hold the line and concentrate on one thing, rather it's hitting the, right, or chanting the beats, or visualizing, or repeating a phrase. Some people have that personality, a very hard personality type, right? And that works. And by concentrating on one thing, everything disappeared. Some people, on the other hand, don't really like doing that. They have a softer approach. So they just simply relax the body, let everything sink down. Zen's like that. Zen focus on just the posture. And just by doing that, they enter emptiness eventually, right? So those are like the two ways you can calm the mind. So the next question is, how do I work with negative emotion? at the stage in which you calm the mind that we just talked about, finally, for the first time in a long time, your mind shut up. You experience quietness. You get a moment of peace, but it doesn't last long in the beginning. Because as soon as your mind calmed down, all that negative emotions start to surface to the point where you go, man, I didn't even know that was there. If you're quiet enough, the negative emotion will come up, right? But deeper than that, if you just sit with it and don't try to run away with it, usually for most people, not everybody, but for most people I talk to, you start getting suppressed memory coming up. In other words, you're not just feeling your trauma or negative emotion, but you're feeling past underneath it where it came from, the memory. When that first happened to me the first year, I was sitting about 4 hours a day. And I think it was either the third or fourth month. I have to look at my journal, but it freaked me out that I was remembering a lot of things from China when I was about 1.5 years old. And I thought my mind was just tripping balls. I didn't believe it. So I called my mom and I told her about it, and she freaked out and go, man, how did you remember that? So that's when I start to know, oh shit, this is not fake. It's actually detoxing. And for some people, they'll cry. Some people, they'll throw up. Some people, they'll start shaking. Some people will sweat crazy. Some people will start laying down in the fetus position. It really depends. When you're detoxing and the bad shit's coming out and all the suppressed memories coming out, is really, really tiring and is really, really draining. St. John on the Cross, for example, called that the dark night of the soul. In Taoism, we have many names for it, demon attacks, blah, blah, blah. So different tradition will call it different scary names, but it's really just your mind and your body remembering things really deep down, and it's releasing it, you're detoxing. In psychology, it took them close to 100 years, but now they finally figure out that trauma is actually held in your nervous system in your body. It's not just a story in your head. That's why a lot of therapy doesn't work. They try to get someone with trauma to stop being negative by changing their cognitive behavior. Most of the time, the failure rate of that kind of therapy is really high. But now science has figured out, oh, it's not just in your head. The stuff is actually hold on in your nervous system. Your nervous system is subconsciously holding on to this bad stuff. You have to let it go. That's why they figured out recently, the last 7 years, I think it is, that psychedelics has a way to overcome PTSD within 1 or 2 treatment faster than 10 years of therapy and antidepressants or something, right? I mean, it'll probably take a few more years before they worked out all the bugs and have this to be a broad treatment. I hope they do anyways. But in spiritual traditions like Buddhism and Taoism especially, has known this for thousands of years, that trauma is stored in your body. That's why in meditation, one of the first things that happens is what I just talked about earlier, while you're detoxing with suppressed memory and stuff starts to come out. This sounds nice that you're healing, but it's not. There's a reason why St. John on the Cross calls it the dark night of the soul. It is no fun. So what it means is, unlike a lot of other tradition, in Taoism is very gentle. Taoism is known to be like very soft. It doesn't believe, and I agree with this, it doesn't believe that someone should detox negative emotion too fast. You're going to shock. That's why people start shaking, convulsing in a fetus position and start crying uncontrollably and throwing up. That's not good. And you see that in retreats a lot. People will pay a lot of money to detox their negative emotion. I don't think that's a good thing. It should be done slowly. That way, make sure you're safe and your mind can recover from that draining energy, right? And one of the main symptoms of this, which is one of the questions I also got, why do I shake when I do Qigong? One of the main symptoms of this is when you're doing Qigong, you start to shake, right? And in modern Qigong, people do that and they contrive it because they get high off it. And I had a friend that after 32 years of shaking Qigong, he ended up in the ER because he drained his nervous system so much. It's not good to shake so much no matter how high you're getting off this and how much detoxing you're doing. Pre-communist area, like before the communists in Taoism, the shaking practice, it wasn't like the modern version. You did not contrive it to get high. It only happened naturally. You're not supposed to contrive it. So when you're standing, and more common when you're sitting, eventually when you relax enough, you start shaking. Well, everyone looks different, but it might look very gentle. But usually when a shaking happens, it's rarely really violent. It's actually done very gently. Not because you're trying to make it gentle, but it happens gently. And you're releasing a little bit at a time with negative emotions and also physical blockages or tension in your nervous system, right? Especially in the shoulders and the back for most people. And for emotional stuff, it's usually around here, right? So when you start shaking, it shouldn't last more than a few months for most people if you're not contriving it. And the reason why I'm saying this is, when you get to the point that you start shaking, at first you're going to feel like shit because a lot of negative emotion and suppressed memories coming up, and you're releasing it involuntarily. So at first it feels crappy, but after a few months it's going to start to feel really good. Kind of like you're constipated and you finally get to poo. You're getting all the negative stuff out of your body. When it starts to feel good and you're releasing negative emotion, be very careful. If you're shaking and you get addicted to it and you're getting high off it, you can end up in an emergency room by draining your nervous system completely, right? And I've seen that twice in the last 39 years. So you don't want to get addicted to detox. It's not good for you. It should always happen naturally. Not like, okay, today I'm going to sit for 8 hours and detox all the negative childhood stuff out of me. If you do that, you might end up in a hospital. You're not meant to get rid of all garbage in one sitting, right? Even though that's very popular in a lot of new age retreats nowadays, not recommended at all. It is better to sit and just practice properly and patiently. And if you shake, you shake. If things get released, it gets released. If you remember stuff, good. And in time, as the garbage comes out of you more and more, now you're taking a longer time, and more importantly, you're taking a natural time. Nature knows best. It knows when to go from season to season, right? It knows when to go from summer to fall to winter to, it just knows when to switch. It knows when to tell you to inhale and exhale. It knows when to rain and when to shine. Nature has a balancing effect. So when you're detoxing, it should be balanced, right? So when you're sitting, to answer your question, why do I shake when I do Qigong? It's because your body's naturally detoxing stuff. And when that happens, respect nature enough to let it come out naturally. There are systems of doing practice that shake on purpose and contrive it. Those are very dangerous. So be very careful. All right, next time we'll talk a little bit more about other stuff. If you want to study this more, we have a program coming up in adamchanlive.com. Follow the link below. See you next time.